Strasbourg, France, September 10, 2025. The European Parliament witnessed a rare moment of unanimous applause today as European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen delivered one of her strongest statements yet against Moscow's aggression. The remarks came in response to a dangerous escalation that many analysts say could redefine the scope of Russia's war in Ukraine. Earlier this week, Poland confirmed that Russian drones had entered its airspace, a NATO member, in what officials are describing as the first direct military violation of the alliance's borders since the war began. Warsaw said it acted in coordination with allies to intercept and neutralize what it called hostile objects. The incident has rattled capitals across the continent, raising concerns of a broader conflict spilling across NATO lines. Standing before members of the European Parliament in Strasbourg, von der Leyen did not mince words. Her tone was measured, but her language carried a weight that left no ambiguity about the EU's position. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, said, "Just today, we have seen a reckless and unprecedented violation of Poland and Europe's airspace by more than 10 Russian Shahed drones. Europe stands in full solidarity with Poland." The chamber erupted in a standing ovation, underscoring how deeply the incident has shaken Europe's political establishment. For many lawmakers, the event was more than a military intrusion. It was a direct challenge to the credibility of NATO's collective defence and the European Union's unity. According to Polish officials, the overnight incident unfolded rapidly. Air defence systems detected the incoming drones, believed to be Iranian-made Shaheds, crossing from Ukraine into Polish territory. Military jets were scrambled alongside NATO allies, and several of the drones were intercepted before they could cause harm. The Polish government described the situation as the most serious security threat in decades. In Warsaw, Defence Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz emphasized the gravity of the intrusion, calling it a test of Poland's readiness and a reminder of Russia's willingness to escalate. Local reports confirmed that debris from at least one intercepted drone landed near the town of Hrubieszów, close to the Ukrainian border. While no casualties were reported, residents were urged to stay indoors during the military operation. The government has since announced heightened air defence alerts across the eastern regions. The violation of Polish airspace represents a moment NATO has long feared, a direct crossing of the alliance's borders by Russian military hardware. For months, Western officials had warned that spillover from the Ukraine war could ignite a broader confrontation. So far, NATO's response has been cautious but firm. Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg convened emergency consultations under Article 4, a clause that allows members to discuss threats to their territorial integrity. While the move stops short of triggering Article 5, the alliance's collective defence principle, it signals how seriously NATO is treating the incident. Stoltenberg praised Poland's rapid response and reiterated that the alliance remains committed to defending every inch of its territory. Yet behind closed doors, diplomats acknowledge the challenges ahead. How to deter further Russian provocations without being drawn into direct confrontation. Von der Leyen's statement in Strasbourg is being widely interpreted as an effort to project unity at a moment of deep uncertainty. Her use of the words reckless and unprecedented marks a significant escalation in EU rhetoric, suggesting that Brussels is prepared to take a harder line. The President of the European Commission framed the violation not merely as an attack on Poland, but as an assault on European sovereignty as a whole. By emphasizing solidarity, she sought to preempt any fractures among member states over how to respond. European lawmakers, some of whom had previously been divided on questions of military support for Ukraine, appeared unusually aligned in their reaction. The standing ovation in Parliament highlighted a shared recognition that the stakes have now risen dramatically. Russia's Silence Moscow has yet to issue a detailed response to the incident, but Kremlin officials have previously dismissed similar accusations of airspace violations as fabrications. Russian state media, meanwhile, suggested that Poland's claims were an attempt to drag NATO deeper into the conflict. Military analysts note that Russia's use of Shahed drones has become a hallmark of its campaign against Ukraine's energy and infrastructure. The drones, supplied by Iran, are slow-moving but difficult to intercept in large numbers. What remains unclear is whether their entry into Poland was deliberate or the result of miscalculation. Some European intelligence officials argue that the scale of the intrusion, more than 10 drones, suggests intent. Others caution against rushing to conclusions, pointing out that Russian drones frequently veer off course due to poor navigation systems. Warsaw has wasted no time in pressing for a stronger European and NATO response. Prime Minister Donald Tusk, addressing the Polish parliament, described the incident as a wake-up call for Europe. He urged allies to accelerate the delivery of air defence systems and to prepare contingency plans for further violations. The Polish government has also requested additional NATO air patrols along its borders and called for stricter sanctions against Moscow. Domestic political pressure is mounting, with opposition parties demanding clarity on how Poland will prevent such incidents in the future. For ordinary Poles living near the border, the events have reignited memories of the Second World War, when their country was caught between powerful adversaries. Local media carried images of families taking shelter in basements as military aircraft roared overhead. Observers say the events of September 10th could mark a turning point in the trajectory of the war. For nearly 2 years, the conflict had remained largely contained within Ukraine, despite periodic fears of spillover. With the violation of NATO airspace, the risk calculus for Western leaders may now change. Security analysts note that while Article 5 has not been triggered, the precedent set by Russia's drones is alarming. It tests the boundaries of NATO's deterrence posture and raises questions about how far Moscow is willing to push. Some warn that failing to respond decisively could embolden Russia to repeat such actions. Others argue that overreacting risks escalating into a wider war that neither side desires. For now, European leaders are walking a delicate line between deterrence and restraint. Beyond the immediate crisis, von der Leyen used her address to reinforce Europe's commitment to Ukraine and to collective defence. Her words were not only directed at Moscow, but also at European citizens who may be growing weary of the war. By invoking solidarity with Poland, she linked the defence of Ukraine's borders to the defence of Europe itself. The applause that followed suggested her message resonated. As she concluded her remarks, von der Leyen reiterated that Europe will not be intimidated. While she offered no specific policy measures, her choice of language signalled that further actions, whether in the form of sanctions, military support or diplomatic pressure, are on the table. The days ahead are likely to be critical. NATO officials are expected to meet in Brussels to discuss next steps, while EU foreign ministers prepare to coordinate their response. Washington, too, is closely monitoring developments, with US President Donald Trump expected to speak with Polish leaders in the coming hours. For now, the skies over Eastern Europe remain tense. Polish fighter jets continue to patrol, and residents near the border are bracing for further alarms. The sense of unease is palpable as Europe confronts the reality that the war it sought to contain may no longer respect its borders. The violation of Polish airspace by Russian drones has jolted Europe into a new phase of the conflict. It is no longer a distant war confined to Ukraine, but a direct challenge to NATO's security architecture. Ursula von der Leyen's declaration that Europe stands in full solidarity with Poland may prove to be more than a symbolic gesture. It could be the beginning of a new chapter in Europe's collective defence, one in which unity is not optional but essential. As Strasbourg's standing ovation echoed through the halls of Parliament, the message was clear: Europe may be tested, but it does not intend to stand divided.